Hi and welcome once again. Today we are doing a 3D abstract inside of Blender. We're going to learn how to import our Scala OBJ file, create a bunch of spheres like this, and then we'll learn how to create these cool materials, as you can see here, these cool materials, and finally use rigid body simulation to create our 3D scene like this. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. Let's open up our Blender 3.0 and let's go to general. Okay, so let's select everything in our viewport and hit X for delete. So for this 3D abstract, we are going to use a free model from the internet. So let's go to this website. I'm going to leave a link in the description below if you want to follow along. So this was created by this man Feliso. So let's hit download and let's grab this one here. Okay, so I'm going to extract my zip file. I'm going to unzip it onto my desktop. Okay, so let's jump. After you have done that, jump back into Blender and then go to your files, import, and then wavefront the OBJ. Locate where you extracted your Scala and then select .obj file. And let's hit import. Okay, so it's going to import. We're not going to need all these. We're going to need only a single Scala. So let's quickly delete it. X for delete. X. Okay, so it came with its materials and everything. So let's inspect. You see, as you can see here. So let's quickly delete the material as well. So I'll drag this up, then change it to shader editor so that I can see the material applied to the skull here. So I'll unplug this one here and then unplug this one. I'll select this X for delete and select this X, and then I'll select this one as well, X to delete. Okay, let's apply just a simple blue color. We'll come back to this later. So with our skull selected, you can see the origin is right here in the center. So let's make sure the geometry is properly aligned to the origin. To do that, we'll go to object, set origin, and go to geometry to origin. So now the geometry is right at the center of the origin. Okay, so let's hide our skull for a bit, and then let's create our spheres, a bunch of spheres. Okay, so we'll do Shift A, mesh, UV sphere. Let's toggle this up, and then let's divide the segments by 2, so /2, so that we have 16 segments. I think that's fine. Let me go to my solid mode. Yeah, okay, right click and then shade smooth. Go to my add modifiers property, and let's add a subdivision surface. 1, 2 is fine. Yeah, so next let's duplicate our spheres a bunch of times. To do that, we are going to use the array modifier. We'll go to add modifiers, array. So the first one, we're going to add 4 counts, and let's make it 1.4 so that we have some space in between. Let's collapse it here, and let's add another array modifier. So this, the X factor, we're going to make it 0. Then the Z factor, we are going to make it 1.4 like this. And let's increase the counts to 10. Okay, so we have a bunch of spheres to work with. Now let's apply our modifiers. So we apply the first one, and then we apply the second one. Okay, so as at now, this is just a single sphere with a single object with a bunch of spheres. So let's separate it. So to do that, we are going to select our sphere, jump into edit mode by hitting tab. Make sure everything is selected in your viewport. Make sure all the spheres are selected in your viewport. If they are not, just hit A for select all, and then everything will be selected. Tab P for separate, and then we separate by loose parts. Okay, now each object is separated. So we have individual objects here. So let me tab out of edit mode. We have individual objects, as you can see. So we have a bunch of spheres we have 40 spheres. So let's select everything once again. We are going to make sure their origin is properly aligned to their objects. So as you can see now, this object's origin is somewhere here. Control Z to undo. So let's make sure everything is properly aligned. So we will select everything, go to objects, then we set origin to geometry. So now all of their origins are properly reset to their correct places. Okay, so let me bring this up here and let's add our four materials. Okay, so I'll jump into our material preview mode. Let me bring this down, and then let me increase my world opacity to 1 so that we can see what's going on. We can add there's a basic HDRI to see what's going on. So let's select this, and then new. We are going to name this gold. Let's change the base color to something like this, and let's make the metallic 1. Okay, so we have this gold, and then the roughness, let's do shift A, and then let's go to texture, and let's add a noise texture. Let's do shift A again, and let's add a color ramp. So at converters, let's see color ramp. So let's plug the color into the factor, then let's plug this color into the roughness. Okay, so as you can see, let's increase our scale so you can see what's going on. Let's increase this here. So 0 black is 0, and then 1 is white. So one value of roughness is no roughness at all, and 0 is more roughness. Yes, so let's change our black a bit so that it's not like completely rough surface. Let's change our white a bit so that we don't have completely hard surface. Okay, so I think it's fine. We have some variations in between. Next, let's select the next one on the row. Let's add a new material, and let's call this glass. Okay, so for this one, we're going to change the transmission to 1, and then we decrease our roughness to, let's do 0.3. So I have this glass here. So we are done with that one. Next, let's select this one, and then let's add material. Let's call it dots. Okay, so we're going to use our Voronoi texture for this dots. So we do shift A, texture, Voronoi. Then we add a color ramp here. So we plug the distance into the factor, then we plug the color into the base color. Okay, so we have something like this. So let's change this from the linear to constant. Then we have this. So let's bring this white value down to something like this, and then we can increase our scale and then round off randomness to see what we can get. So let me change this color here to gold kind of color, and let me make this metallic, decrease the roughness a bit to I think 0.3 is fine. Okay. So the next one, we're going to use a wave texture. So let's make sure it's selected. Let's hit new, shift A, then let's search for our wave texture. Let's put it somewhere here. Let's do shift A once more. Let's do color ramp. Let's bring it somewhere here. Okay, so let's make it metallic. Let's plug our color to the factor. Let's plug this color into the base. Okay, let's change it from linear to constant. Let's decrease our scale. Let's bring it somewhere here. Let's decrease our scale to 1.6. I think 1.6 is fine. Let's change this color to right about here. Next, I'm going to duplicate this color up, Shift D, bring it here, and let me plug my color into the factor. I'm going to plug this color into the roughness. Okay, I'm going to change this to a black, and I'm going to change this up a bit, something like this. So basically, this part is more rough and shiny than the other parts. So we have our materials done. I'm changing to my solid mode. So next, as you can see, our materials are done. So let's apply this material to all this row. The same apply to the rest. So I'm going to select everything, shift, select on the last one. I'll go to object, link date, link transfer data, link slash transfer data, and we're going to use object data. You see all the materials are applied. I'll do the rest. I'll do it for the rest. The shortcut is shift. I'll select the last one, shift control L for link object data. Same for this one, shift select the last one, control L, and then for this one, shift select, control L. So I've linked everything, as you can see. Now let's select everything here and do Z to bring it up a bit. Okay, I'm going to select this part, do HS to scale it down. I just want to add a little bit of variation to our scene. I'll select this part, S to scale it down. I'll select these two, S to scale it down, and I think I should select everything and then scale it down a bit. Okay, so with everything selected, I'm going to create a new collection. I'll hit M, new collection. So I'll call it my spheres. I'll tap OK, so that I have nice organized workspace here. So let me bring back my skull here. Okay, so with everything selected, let's bring them closer to our skull here. G to move. So I have my skull here. Let me bring it up to somewhere here. Okay, that's nice. Next, we are going to start with our simulation. Let's select everything once again. We'll go to our objects, and then we'll go to our rigid body, and then we add active. Okay, so now when we come to our physics properties, you can see rigid body is being applied to all of these spheres. Okay, and the type is changed to active. Okay, let's select our scar here, and then let's go to our physics properties, rigid body. So we've applied the rigid body to it, and let's set it to passive. Nice. And let's change the collision type to mesh. So with this one, let's select one of these spheres. Let's change the collision type to sphere. Okay, so now let's select everything once again. Make sure this last one is selected, so I'll hold shift. Make sure this, click on this one. Make sure this is the active object. Go to objects and then rigid body. Then we do copy from active. So we are going to copy these settings, the collision sphere settings to all of this selected object. So let me click. Now all of them are now given collision shape of sphere. Okay, this will help with the simulation later. So next, let's create our force field. So we go to force, we'll create a force. Let me hold G, let me do G, and let me bring it to somewhere here. Okay, and then let me come to my physics force. So the strength, I'm going to give it a negative number so that it pulls all the objects closer, so it will act like a magnet. I'll do minus 2000 for the start. Okay, let's come to our scene property. Let's turn off gravity. Now let me jump. Let's change this time. Let's change this to timeline. Then now scene is ready for the simulation. At this point, I'll encourage you to save your file. So I'll do Control S. I'll save it to my SCAR folder. I'll name it abstract. So I'll save my blend file. So now let me hit play to see our simulation. Okay. So now our object is being simulated, our scene is being simulated. Okay. So let's pause for now and let's set up our scene so that you can see what's been happening properly. So I'm going to drag this here to create another workspace. Okay. So I'll do Shift A. Now add a new camera. Go to camera. Let me do G and I'll bring my camera somewhere here. Okay. So I'll tap here to toggle to camera view. I'll scroll it up a bit. Let me drag to the side of it. So I'll do N. I'll go to my view and I'll lock camera to view. So now I can move my scene into position. Nice and simple. I'll do Shift A and I'll add a mesh, a plane. I'll do S to scale it up. S to scale it up even more. So let me position my camera properly. I'm using my middle mouse to control the camera. Something like this, I think is fine. So I'll select tab into edit mode. Make sure my edit select mode is selected. I'll hold this part here. I'll do E to extrude on the Z axis by tapping Z. I'll extrude it up like this. I'll select this edge. Do Shift Control B to bevel. I'll scroll my mouse wheel to add some cuts. I'll tap out of edit mode by hitting tab. Right click and do shade smooth. Okay. So now we have our scene here. Let's change our render engine to cycles. I'll change my device to GPU compute, and then I'll change my shading mode to this. Okay, let's change this one to our shader editor, and let's change this to object world. So we are going to add an HDRI to our scene. So to do that, let's make sure we have our node wrangler add-on enabled. So I'll go to edit, preference, add-on, and I'll search for node. So I'll select my node wrangler here, and now we have our node wrangler add-on enabled. I'll select this one. I'll do Control T to add this nodes environment texture nodes. So I'll hit open. I'm going to locate my HDRIs. So I'll go to my HDRI here. You can download a free one from Polyhaven. So HDR Haven, Polyhaven. So you go to HDRIs. You can see there are a lot of cool HDRIs. So let's just grab a free one. So let's say this one here. So I'll hit this, and then I'll hit download. So you can change the resolution you want, the format. I'll go with HDRI. Now hit download. So my download will start. So my download is done. I'll show in folder, and I'm going to drag it into my SCAR. So I'll jump back into my Blender. I'll go to my folder, my SCAR folder, and I can see my HDRI. This is the HDRI we just downloaded. I'll select it and then hit open. So now the HDRI has been added to our scene here. I'll hit this to hide all the other stuffs, and I'll tap T so that we can see what's going on in the camera view. So our HDRI is being added. I'll decrease the strength a bit to, let's say, 0.8. It's a bit strong. Let's do 0.45 for now. We'll come back to it later. Let's select our backdrop. I'll do G, Z, and bring it down a bit. Don't really want to show my shadows and stuff. So next, so as you can, let me change this to solid mode for now, and I'll drag to add another workspace here and change this to timeline. Okay, so now as you can see, we have our simulation and our everything ready. So if you don't want, we can duplicate. If you want, we can duplicate our force field so that some of the objects will be attracted to this side as well. So I'll do Shift D. I'll bring it here. So now we have two new force fields here. So this force field is going to attract some of our objects to this side as well. So now let me do our simulation once again. I'll jump back. I'll hit this to jump back to the start of the timeline. I'll do Ctrl S to save my file in case Blender crashes. So I'll hit play to play my animation once again. So as you can see, now some of the objects are being pulled to this side so that we have a very nice and attractive, a very nice scene. Okay, I'll select my backdrop and make sure I move it to the side a bit. G on the Y axis so that it covers everything in my camera view. So let's dive into our render preview to see what we have. So this is what we have here. I think this HDRI is a bit hard for me. I'm going to change my HDRI. So make sure you can download a lot of them and try and see the one you like best. So I'll go to my blends, my HDRI. So I'm going to choose this and see. Okay, so I think I like this one. Okay. Next, I'm going to add a couple of lights. I'll do light, then I'll add the area light. I'll do G, Z to bring it up. Do S to scale it up like this. I'll go to my light properties and then I'll add the strength of 100. I think, okay, that's fine. So I'll change my strength of my HDRI to 1. I'm just playing around with my lighting to make sure I find something that works for me. Okay. I'll do Shift D to duplicate this light to bring it here. I'm going to drag it somewhere here. Then yes, so I can change the color a bit. So let me add some bluish tint to this. I'll do Shift D once again to bring one light here. And I'm going to move it to somewhere here. So I think I like my scene. Yeah, I think I like my scene. So let me work on my skull texture a bit. I'll select my skull. I'll change this from world to objects. Bring this down a bit. Get down with it. So let's increase our roughness to 0.126 or something. But let's add a wave texture. Let me change the color, make it a bit deeper. Let's add a wave texture. And then let's add a color ramp. So let's plug the color into the factor. Let's plug this color here. Okay. So let's increase this to something here. Let me change this to my blue. I think it's deeper. So I'm just playing around. You can obviously play around to find something that works best for you. I'll change this one to lighter version of this blue, like this. Okay. So let's increase the distortion a bit. Let me add one light in front. So I'll select this light, I'll do Shift D, I'll duplicate, I'll bring it here, and then point it here. So that's, I'll add an extra light in front to fill out some of the shadows here. I'll increase the power a bit. Let's say 200. Nice. So let's select our backdrop and let's add a color. I'll go with a deep blue for this one. I think I like the color. Okay, you can obviously play around and find some what works best for you. So next we'll go to our render properties, color management, and let's change this look to high contrast. So we have this. Oh, let's do medium high. So we have this. I'm going to increase my world light, my HDRI strength a bit. So increase my strength to, I think one is fine. Yeah, I think one is fine. Let's select our camera. Let's add some depth of field. So with my camera selected, I'll take depth of field. I'll hit this eyedropper to select this object as my focus. So let's decrease the f-stop a bit to add more depth of field. So I'll do 1. I think 1 is fine. So it's going to focus on this car here. So I think we are ready for render. So we go to render image. So this is my final render. Thank you very much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe if you like the video. So to save your file, we go to image, save as, and locate a folder you want to save it at. You can change the format to whatever you want. I'll go with JPEG for this one. I'm going to increase the quality to 100% and I'll do save.